Hey, what's up, everybody? Today I am going to do another product review, and this time it's strings. The weird thing with me and strings is for the longest time I didn't care because before this, my favorite set of strings that I ever owned was on my bass for like 5 or 6 years. It was It was a set of D'Addario XLs, just like nickel plated. Probably like I was using kind of heavier strings at the time, so it might have been like medium to heavy gauge or just medium gauge. I'm not sure. And I loved them, and I had them on there so much that the little, like, anybody who's had a set of strings on for a long time knows what I'm talking about. It's like the divots on the fret side. So if I did this with my bass and I looked, it would look like my strings are about to snap at any moment. So unfortunately, one of them did break eventually, but it was at the top near the nut, and it was right before recording, which sucked. But yeah, so people who have watched any of my videos know I'm not the most technically thinking person when it comes to my gear, right? Like, it's more about feel to me. It's more about touch. It's more about response. And I come from mostly live music. I did a lot of live music before I did any kind of like recording music. Probably, and before I really started recording, honestly, I probably had done, I'd already done like 7 or 8 tours by then. So for the longest time, for my formative years in music, it was all about everything live, and that was my soundboard, right? So anything I tried, any gear I was using, any strings, any amps or whatever, it was all like, how does it affect me live? Now I have been doing, ever since I lived in Nashville for a little while, and then now since moving out to LA, I'm doing way more recording than I've ever done, and in larger studios and things like that. So I'm looking at gear differently, and I'm starting to think about gear in a way that I never have before. So one of those things is strings. I did an amp review a while ago because I found this amazing amp that I felt, kind of helped me achieve a sound and things like that. And these strings, I'm having another one of those moments. It's these strings right here. There we go. It's these strings right here. Labella Deep Talk and Bass, which a lot of people use, perfectly balanced sets. It's the quarter round stainless steel. And I bought them. I actually went to Amp Shop here in LA. Shout out to those guys. I went to buy just like a normal, like my normal nickel-plated, like light to medium 6-string bass set. That was like what I was looking for. But I saw these, and I know that these quarter rounds are kind of interesting, and I had read some things online about them. And so I bought them just to like try them out. And so previous to this, I was trying kind of like different mixtures of, I couldn't really like figure out what I liked. I would try round rounds for a while, and they were fine, all nickel. And I would try like half rounds and flats, all nickel still. And it was all mostly like D'Addario, and I would try some other brands. And I liked D'Addario for the longest time, and so I really didn't have a reason to try any other brands. But this last NAMM that I was at, I saw the Labella booth, and I tried some out because a lot of bass players that I like use Labella, and so I was like, well, I'll try them out, whatever. And the thing that caught me off guard was the way that they feel, like not necessarily the way that they sounded at first, but it was the way that they felt. The feeling of the Labella strings that I tried at NAMM was really interesting, and they just felt like nice. You know what I mean? It's kind of the difference when you play like just a basic, when you pick up just like a $500 bass as opposed to like when you play a handmade bass. It's just a very different feeling to them. And that comes a lot down to preference, but the nice feeling of those Labella strings at NAMM all got me thinking like, okay, maybe I'll try some Labella strings in the future. So went to Amp Shop, picked these up because I was like, quarter rounds, that's really interesting. But then I saw that they were stainless steel. I have avoided stainless steel for the longest time because there's something about them that they were always a little too bright, a little too like clicky, even though I like a lot of like, I like a lot of like clicky sounds. I like that normally, and a lot of fret noise. because I just like being able to control it with my hands. And but there's something about steel strings that they kind of like snapped a little too hard. I don't know. I just didn't really. I was just never super into them. Also, I don't do a lot of like, you know, I don't do a lot of slap. So it's like there's never really a reason for me to like really, you know, most of the bass players that I knew that really liked stainless steel strings, round stainless steel strings, they did like slap stuff, and they like that super bright sound. Not really my thing. I like a really dead sound normally. But I saw these and I was like, oh, quarter rounds, that's really wild. And they were steels, and I was like, it's fine, I'll try them out anyway. Like, why not? And I had considered like, well, maybe I'll do this like video review, and it'll just be like content. But I put them on my bass. I only found a set of 4s. And so right now I have 2 nickel-plated D'Addarios for my C string and my B string, and the ones in the 4 in the middle are these Labella quarter-round steels. And let's see, I put them on and then did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 recordings. A couple were like live performance, like Instagram recordings. One was like a bigger production kind of YouTube recording, and then one was like actually in a studio, like big studio. It was like 11 songs for this girl's album, and I gotta say, I might just be like a convert. There's something about these strings and that are just like so interesting and so particular, and they record so well. You know, that's why I brought up, you know, my past experience being live music and my current experience being a lot more recorded music. There's something about them. They just record so well, and they sit so well at a mix that I think I might just keep them. I think I might just keep them on here. I actually bought like a 5-string set of Labella, like just like nickel rounds, because I was like, well, this is what I normally use. I'll just try them in Labella. But I might keep these. Stainless steel. I don't know, man. I was blown away. First of all, there's a couple things that are kind of interesting about them. The gauges are just a little bit different. It's .042, .06, .082, .104. So it's like they're just like a little bit different from like all the standard like Dunlop, Dunlop GHS, like D'Addario, Fender, you know, all those like normal bass string. Well, Dunlop's a little bit different, but all of the other ones like kind of like normal run-of-the-mill bass strings. You know, they, you know, if you check out their gauges, they're going to be just a little bit different than that. And so there's something about the gauges that I like. Something about it like feels really natural. Like when I play just like easy stuff. You know. Just going across the strings feels really natural. There's something really natural about them, and I don't feel like the something about like going from like D to G. You know, I can like feel the fact that the D string is way bigger than the G, and I don't get that sensation. You know, I don't really like get that sensation of like whoa. You know, there's something about that's different. So there's that. That's really interesting. But then also just the whole quarter round thing, it takes the edge off, and it's like, duh, you know, like you can surmise that by the name of the strings. But I was shocked at like how it took away that mega brightness of stainless steels that I've always not liked. I was just shocked at how it took that away. And I have like a little tiny secret that I read on some really old guitar forum that I normally do to my strings to like take off that top layer of shine that I've always done for my nickels. And maybe I'll make a video about that in the future. Comment down below if you want to see that video. But you know, I didn't do that to these strings, and then going through seeing all those recordings, sitting under like 3 or 4 different engineers, you know, hearing those mixes back, doing one of the mixes myself, and getting to like interact with my own playing in that kind of way. I don't know, man. There's something about these strings that's really special. And honestly, like, you know, what I said about the NAMM Labella strings is very true about these. They just feel nice. There's just something about them. They just feel nicer. The tension is really nice. You know, a lot of those like one finger vibrato. It's just something about it is very smooth. It's like maybe it's a little easier, like maybe, but there's something about it. It just fits better with my hands, and so I'm having a really good time playing them. And when I was so blown away by these, I started like looking up like all of my favorite bass players to see if they used steel strings, and like 8 out of 10 of them do, and so a lot of those bass players I really like because of recordings that they've done. And, you know, whether it was like stainless flats, like stainless rounds, like whatever, you know, different brands, whatever it was, I don't know. There's something about stainless steel strings that I think they just record very well, in my opinion. I might actually try in the future. I might actually buy some like really just like shitty steel strings, just like the cheapest set of steel strings I can, just to see if they record. Obviously they're not going to record as well as these. These are super nice strings. They feel nice. Something about like the upper mids sound really good, you know, in with these strings. You know, that's a good spot for my bass anyway. But then also the lower mids, which is a bad spot for my bass. There's a couple like wolfy notes like around like this B flat right here is like, it like jumps out in like this really gross way. What I would expect from these strings is when I hit that note would jump out even more. But that hasn't been the case. So it's crazy. I don't really know. I don't really know how, you know, how Labella makes their strings, but I'm super interested now. Yeah, so I'm just having a great time with these strings. And it was cool to kind of like have that experience and then go look up all of my favorite, you know, bass players and be like, oh wow, they use stainless steel strings. Oh wow, they use Labellas. Oh wow, they use you know half rounds on this recording or flats on this recording. So it was cool. I hadn't really kind of done that with strings. I had done that with like gear and basses and like amps and DIs and stuff, but I hadn't done that with strings. Partly just because I didn't, you know, it was like I didn't know that there was that much more to gain just from changing a pair of strings, especially because I like a really dead string sound anyway. But yeah, so I'm gonna try just kind of show you guys some things right now. So this is just neck pickup, and treble and bass are flat, which is like that's normally where I start off all the time anyway. It's funny, when I get down to the B string, you can hear, like, the whole sound goes, because, I mean, it's open and closed, that's a bit different too, but, like, we'll try this one. Because even though the fact that, like, you know, different parts on the neck sound that different, like, there's just a crazy tonal difference too, so. It makes like just like basic kind of like runs and stuff. Yeah, I like all the fret noise. I like that. But there's just something about it in this recording that just like they just kind of leap out in a way that goes beyond, you know, just like there's more treble. It goes, you know, there's something very cool about them. And actually, for one of these recordings, I was basically playing with my treble, like rolled almost all the way off, like about that much. Yeah, so okay, so there's like my tone rolled off just a little bit. Here's tone or treble rolled all the way off. Yeah, okay, so here is, let's see, let's do, this is, okay, everything's like flat and in the middle. So this is neck pickup, bridge pickup, you know, here's everything flat. And you know what's kind of funny is I really like having the highest string be like way darker. It like kind of makes the interval like a little like, I don't know. It doesn't make this like high note jump out as much, because I kind of like I don't know. I'll think about that in the future. Yeah, okay, so here's some slap, and this is like the main reason most people like buy steel strings, is because it has that like really, really aggressive slap sound. Yeah, so like it's cool, because even like stuff like that. Like that kind of, it's like quick, you know, like double pluck kind of things. It you know, it's great for that, because it's hard. It's hard. It makes it hard to miss those, and it makes these kind of like double pluck things. Like when I used nickel strings and I would do like the double pluck, that kind of thing. You know, I would have to pull super hard just to get that like tight, like thin kind of piercing sound. But these, it's like I don't even have to try. Like my hand, I'm using almost like half the strength, which is kind of funny. But yeah, and so I think if you're a guy, you know, kind of like now kind of moving this video into very traditional string review video. Yeah, if you're looking for, like, if you're trying to get a better slap tone, if you're trying to get a more aggressive tone, if you like, you know, whether it's like any kind of like music where the bass is hitting just a little bit harder, whether it's like kind of like metal, or like any kind of genre that ends with the word core, or even like gospel, like, you know, like that kind of church stuff. You know, steel strings obviously are the way to go, because a lot of bass players in those styles have been using those strings for a long time. So that's where that's like a part of the sound. But, you know, but honestly, after using these, I'm pretty convinced that maybe steel strings are just the way to go for me. Yeah, because I find that as I get better as a player, I just like being able to control everything with my hands way more. I've told a lot of people who have like helped me, you know, with buying pedals and things like that. I'm not a knob turner. That's why I like that amp that I did the video about a while ago. There's, you know, the EQ is not super complicated. It drives me insane to have to show up to a gig and start like twisting a ton, like a billion knobs, just to get a sound I like. So I like to be able to like set my knobs in one spot. Maybe like, I mean, obviously I change them a lot on a gig, but very little. And so part of that is like I like to be able to do as much or as little with my hands as possible. And so these strings, I'm finding that freedom in a way that I haven't found them with the nickel strings that I've been using, and with the other brands that I've been using. Okay, so now I'm gonna do more basic string review stuff. This is bridge pickup, tone rolled like all the way off, bass boosted just a little bit. This is not a sound that I use very much, but I like it. It's just not something that I use very much. So here's that. Shoot. Yeah, and it's cool, man. Like, you know, it's kind of easy to like fly around with that kind of tone anyway. Or not easy, but it's easier. But there's something about these strings that it just like, it feels so natural to kind of move like that. Even like with the tone that I normally use. I'm gonna go back to my like just neck pickup, tone rolled down like just a little bit, which is kind of the settings that I was saying I've been using for a while. You can kind of hear. yeah, it's even when I'm using that kind of like chunkier, thicker, more hollow sound, it's even then it's still easy to kind of fly around. And it makes chordal playing like really. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. These strings are killing. I don't really know what to tell you. You got to pick some up and try some. I think at the very least, using these strings, whether I wake up in a month and think like, all right, I'm tired of stainless steels, which is funny because that's what I've been talking about this whole time. Whether I wake up in a month and I decide that I'm tired of stainless steels, I think I'm a Labella convert now. I got to try out a couple more brands before I really make my choice. Some people like spend years and years. I feel bad for like guitar players, man. So many guitar players I've talked to, they just talk about this like giant quest that they've been on, and it sounds like something that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote. But they, it's just been years and years and years of them trying strings and having to change them every 2 weeks and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm just looking for a set of strings I can put on my bass till my bass dies and disintegrates. But I think no matter what, I think I'm a Labella convert now. There's something about the feeling of them and the response that I just haven't been getting from like all of the other major string brands that I've tried. I still liked, I liked my time with D'Addario. I liked my time with, GHS or whatever. But, the Labella thing, I think one of my biggest takeaways is now I'm probably going to encourage most people to try Labella no matter what. They're a little bit more expensive. As a bass player, you can kind of afford it. I don't know a lot of bass players that, like, change their strings, like, every other show, and if I had to drop like $80 or whatever the average price is for Labella strings, if I had to drop that every single time, every other show, I'd be like, well, okay, I might just take the crappier strings. But since I and a lot of other bass players I know put the strings on the bass and they leave them there for at least a couple months at least, if not a couple years, or like a year or so, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it spending the extra money. Very cool stuff. Great job to Labella. Applause all around. Made a great set of strings. I'll eventually get around to trying the other Labella strings that I got, which are just the nickel 5s. I think like the RX series or whatever that I got. Eventually I'll get to trying those. I don't know. Maybe I'll do my little secret sauce recipe to kind of like kill these strings even more. Just to kind of see what that's like too, but who knows? I really like these, and they've kind of killed so far. So thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, or if you want me to review another product, do me a solid comment, like, subscribe, all that nonsense. Check me out on Instagram also. I respond to DMs really well on Instagram, a lot better than I do on YouTube. So if you want to ask me something in particular, whether it's about these strings or something, please comment. But also, if I don't get back to you in time, just shoot me a message on Instagram. It's at jhow275, JHOW275. Thank you guys.